So, the Nabataeans. I'm not going to dump into any sort of history of these guys as this video is going to be very long already and I'm probably going to get a bunch of it wrong. So, I'm just going to immediately go over all the strengths and weaknesses and no sort of history dump. I'm going to go through their weaknesses first. They are also my favorite faction, so slight bias. Weaknesses are expensive shot cavalry of the Desert Heavy Lancers at 840 and the Hellenic Desert Cataphracts at 1450. They lack elites, only having one of them, which isn't that good despite the fact I like it. Their morale is iffy. They have iffy morale. And they lack good sword units. And Missile Cav, for that matter. Yeah, Missile Cav is very lacking in Nabataea. Those are the 5 main weaknesses. In terms of strengths, excellent survivability on their hoplites and what swords units they do have, the exception of 1 or 2. Their skirmishing core is very good. You got elite ones and you have the lower end ones. Their melee cav is some of the most cost-effective melee cav in the game, and they have camels. Access to camels is pretty damn good. Not the cataphracts, but the camel spearman is a very solid option. And their low tiers are very, very, very cheap. But they also have no low end, mid tiers, high end, low tiers of Nabataean swords and axes, which are just walking past now, which cook other low tiers and can stand up to mid tiers if you cycle them. And the Nabataean swords have 60 health, which for 450. It's excellent. Absolutely amazing. And last but not least, you have a variety of general options. As Nabataea, you can bring a chariot, sword, spear, and cavalry gen. Only will you ever bring maybe 2 of those, maybe if one. Definitely not the noble swordsman. Very rarely the Rakem and chariot, but more often not the Nabataea noble gen. But that's their overall strengths and weaknesses, and I will delve into all of their units one by one. So we'll start out with the Levy Spearmen. For 200, they are basically what Eastern Spearman does, and they get square. So this Levy Spearman is essentially, like I said, an Eastern Spearman with square, for 30 more than the back tree, and Eastern Spearman with square. I don't know the exact stat differences, though you won't bring these guys much, as their other low tier option for 10 less is much better. Though, there's 2 exceptions to this rule. If you're facing a lot of cav, because extra spears are nice, and if you are looking to clog up a breach of the square formation, make the enemy show their sword side to you, then you can bring Levy Spearmen for 200. But don't expect much of anything out of them. I will show their stats in square, as I don't know their stats because I rarely bring it. There you go, 40 morale, 60 for melee defense. Nothing fantastic. There's other units that do the job better, but as Nabataea, this is what you have. In terms of Desert Levy, this is one of the best low tiers out there, especially for the cost at 190. You have the 35 damage weapon, which is a lot of damage. You got some good armor. And you get loose spacing. These guys are excellent at pushing up torts due to that. They can battle buddy pretty well due to that high weapon damage. Though just be aware they won't win against really anything one-on-one except maybe Hillman, due to the weapon damage. The weapon damage, loose spacing, and the good armor is what really makes this unit. You're going to be bringing 2 or 3 of these typically as Nabataea, as they are very, very cost effective. They're very, very good. No bias, trust me. This might be my favourite faction, but just trust me. So, you got their 2 lower end mid tiers or higher end low tiers, however you want to look at them. Sorry. Right. Nabataean Swordsman, the 450. One of my favourite units. Extremely good survivability of 55 armor and 60 health for 450. They got the good weapon, decent charge bonus, decent attack, but low morale. The main problem with these guys is their morale. If they get attacked in the rear, as I just did a game before recording this, they got attacked in the rear and they started to waver. At 157 men. Insane. If they were losing, I think they probably would have routed. But they weren't. They were even. So, yeah. As Nabataea, you're probably going to ring 4 or 5 on attack and a similar amount on defense because they do really well against other low tiers. And they can stand up to mid tiers as long as you cycle them, as they have decent offensive stats. And if you need them to battle buddy, they have pretty good survivability for the cost. So with your armored desert hoplites, they can do pretty well. Just don't expect them to do any sort of miracles, because that's just not within their pay grade. The more armor piercing option is Nabataean Axe Warriors. These guys sacrifice health for armor, get more morale, less defense and charge, more attack, and the axe weapon 10 AP. They get frenzy charge also. For 490, it's a solid option as well. I prefer the swords due to the higher charge bonus, and the health I think is more important than the armor. But if you want that AP option, you can hit frenzy charge to make them unbreakable as well. 25 charge bonus, 40 defense. It's not great, but you do eliminate the morale option problems. So if you're facing a Swaby, in which case you're probably going to lose anyway, but if you are facing a Swaby, you can bring Axe Warriors because of the morale. The Swaby will take into 15 morale anyway, because of the fear. But it's better than 20 if you took the swords. It's situational for the Axe Warriors, but me personally, I always prefer the swords. Moving on to 2 lower end spear units that are borderline useless. Desert Hoplite and Caravan Guard. These guys 80 range peeler, but you can't throw it, as you can see. They have square. I never use either of these units, so there's not much to comment on. But I don't recommend either of these units in any situation. These guys have some nice survivability, but they are hoplites, so I'd hope so. Yeah. Neither of these units worth it. 520 Caravan Guard, I'd obviously get one of these two. And Desert Hoplites, I'd pay a little bit more just to get one of these two. It's just better in every situation, except if they're being charged by Cav. And even then, you've got Peeler, so it's debatable. But Caravan Guard, don't like them. They're not going to do anything for you. Desert Hoplites still not going to do anything for you. Really. They've got no good stats, really. They're maybe armor. They have 2 pike units. Desert Pikemen, one of the worst pike units in the game, but only costing 400. They drop faster than Levy Pikemen when being shot at, but when they're not, it's a pike. Though they, against like Barb Elites, I think an O-Sword might be able to take on one-on-one. I'm not 100% sure on that though, so don't quite me on it. Nabataean 4-axe pikes for 700 is a pikeman that will actually do pike things. They're like the 4-axe pikeman, just for 40 less and a little bit less morale, I think. I don't know the exact stat comparison because I rarely bring pikes. I don't recommend them, but if you do bring the Nabataean ones, I'd get the 4-axe ones. They cost 720. Yeah, 720. My bad, not 700, 720. I'd bring them if your opponent is like a Sparta, and they lack Peeler, and you can drain their archer armor using your own archers. So, 2 units both costing 780, the Noble Swordsman and the Armored Desert Hoplites. I'll do the Noble Swordsman first, because it's a sword unit without Peeler. Very low armor, good offensive stats, poor weapon, good defense, excellent morale, and average health, and it comes with Shield Wall. The only reason you'd bring this unit is for the Encourage, because of Nabataean morale being so low. But in combat, they're not brilliant. And the moment they are the target of missiles of any kind, they will start to fall away very quickly. It's like a high-risk, mid-reward unit. Not worth bringing. Instead, you want to fill your army with Armored Desert Hoplites, as they cost the same. They're really safe to bring with 90 armor, 50% missile block chance. They're slightly lower than average melee defense, but these guys are like an aggressive hoplite is the best way to put it. 30 charge bonus is more than a lot of Barb mid-tiers. They have 8 AP spear, average morale, good health, really good attack. So, yeah, fill out your army with Armored Desert Hoplites. Slightly more expensive than your average mid-tier. Though against factions like Pergamon, Nabataea can tank quite a lot of its javelins. And it'd be pretty good paired with factions such as Arverni, Nabataea Arverni defense, 2v2, pretty solid because you got the aggressiveness of Celt, you got the archers, you got the survivability, you got Cav, everything you need. And moving on to the upper echelons of their units, I'm going to kick off the Heavy Dev Spearman for 830. I've rarely seen this unit brought, and because Armor Desert Hoplites are better. Average survivability, decent melee defense and charge, no elite spear, average morale. It has Cav counter and shield screen, but the shield screen is it's the only formation that doesn't bug in the sense that it won't like go through units, but you also can't move at it. See, can't move. You don't have counter of 60 bonuses large. I don't recommend this unit. Bring their armored as a hoplite as they are able to kill, and they you can cycle these hoplites unlike most because that 30 charge bonus. Moving on to the Rockham Palace Guard, one of my favourite units, even though they suck. For 1,140, they are their elite unit. On the surface of things, their stats don't look half bad, with excellent survivability, good offensive stats, especially that charge bonus, slightly lower defense, but they lack the elite spear, which is huge, and they don't have hoplite wall, despite the fact they use hoplons. It doesn't make any sense. Cav counter, shield screen, really only going to be using this against like ODK for the extra charge defense. That's about it. Cav counter is a nice add-on, but these guys are very, very survivable. I don't ever bring one of them. That's in specific situations. But you do, I guess. I do like the Rockham Palace Guard, but I can't propagandize it. It's these these videos are informational. 2 low-tier javelins. They're literally the same units with very slight stat differences. Heavy skirmish is slightly more survivable and better in melee. The extreme jump in melee defense. These guys cost 280, these guys cost 250. They both do the exact same thing. Cost-effective low-tier javelins always have a place in my heart for being a really good unit. So, you can bring them. You can bring them alongside your archers if you're doing +1. Even if you don't, 3 archers, one of these guys will probably do just fine, provided you don't have to go for all 4 archers. But if you do, then so be it. For playing +1, they're a solid choice. Slingers. I don't recommend basic slingers as Nabataea, as you have the Nabataean heavy archers and the low-tier javs to do that damage at a low end for you. It's still an option though, so low damage over time, cheap slingers, they can work. They're not that survivable, they cost 260, but I'd rather pay double to get the Nabataean heavy archers because they are so good. I'll explain why in a moment. Nabataean light peltists are light peltists, but with a 35 damage weapon, meaning they're better in melee, and the rest of it is basically the exact same unit. But they do cost 500. So if you want to go even more onto that javelin heavy side, you can take 2 of these alongside 3 archers if you're doing +1 rolls, or 3 archers and a Nabataean light peltist if not. They're very good at cancelling out Nabataea's weakness of being cycle charged, as the hoplites have lower than average defense and no ECD, so if someone cycles you, you can shoot them in the back as they do it. So that's what I'd recommend bringing them if you're facing a Bowie Eye, which why you take an Nabataea into Bowie Eye. But you can do it. So, yeah. I'd highly recommend it. Very good unit. Nabataean Heavy Archers. Literally a Syrian without precision shot, but they get the 35 damage weapon, meaning in that absolute late game, when you need the archers to kill the enemy archers to get army losses on your side, or support your own infantry, every time they get a hit with that 35 damage weapon, it's gonna hurt. And that's very good, because that's how some games are often won. You'd always bring 4, at least 3 of these guys, unless in case you're doing more javelins. But these guys are so good. I think they're gonna be top 5 best archers in the game. So, yeah, bring the Nabataean heavies. In terms of the cavalry, we're gonna do the melee cav first, because some of these I can skim over. Desert Cavalry, already said before in previous videos, don't like them. Camel Spearmen for 420, they have the camel entity, so they will do very, very well against infantry. They won't win cav fights for you, but they're very easily going to get that cost efficient. They're very cost efficient, they're very easily going to get the kills. because just the way camels work, they don't collide with each other, they're better against infantry. The only camel unit in the game I don't recommend is the Armored Camel Spearman, as it's a scam. These guys cost 420, these guys cost 740, and they really don't have that much more armor. This is armored. They get like 20 more armor and 5 more health. Not worth it. Don't think they're going to win any cav fights for you. They're not that brilliant overall. Though they have some nice melee defense there, I see. So, if you want a camels, bring the regular camel spearman and save yourself like 320 funds. Armored desert cav, once again, don't recommend. Medium, not that good. Trash. Not great survivability. 580. Nice melee defense though, but I wouldn't recommend it as you have far better options. I'm an idiot and brought 2 of these guys. One is my general, because I didn't see. And Nabataea Noble Cav, in my opinion, it's the most cost-effective melee cav in the game, with heavy mass. Excellent stats across the board, as you can see. 50 melee attack, 65 when against large, because it's 15 bonus versus large. It's absolutely brilliant. This is your most common general option, as it's cost-efficient, and also it adds flexibility to your army. Average morale is its only downside, but it's really, really good. I can't recommend it enough. Ranked among the likes of the Cappadocian, the Noble Blood, stuff like that. Arabian Cav sucks, unfortunately. He has Javies, and that's about it. Medium Cav, no survivability, no morale, no bonus versus large, even. This is the only missile Cav over here, the Camel Archers. So don't bring it, as they can't shoot behind them. As you can see, they shoot like a normal archer. And they're not also arse on the charge. No survivability. No melee stats. The Camel Mass does not save them, unfortunately. Don't bring Nabataea's Missile Cav. It's not worth it. Yeah, because you're just gonna die on the charge, and you're better off just getting... These guys cost 420 or 450? You're better off getting something else, like an Nabataean sword. 2 chariots. Desert chariots. Already know my opinions on them. Awful, just abysmal stats, that they do a fire shot so they can break it quicker when they're running through them. But the thing is, when they're running through them, they're dying. So, they don't exactly work as intended. Also, why is bro only holding 1 rein? What are you doing? Scythe chariots, the better chariot. Going at 1380. These guys cost 850. And I'll give that 4 for both of them. These guys are worth it. If you want a risky unit, they are a general option, like the Nabataea Noble, Rakem Palace Guard, and the Noble Swordsman. I forgot to mention that. Decent stats across the board, there's only 12 of them, so when they fall away, their morale's going to be iffy. I've seen them break at 7 out of 12. It's just chariot morale for you. It's a very high risk, very high reward, because if you're facing a faction like Saba, where they've got no shield wall, this can really pay off. Really, really pay off. So, you can experiment with them, but just be aware it's very risky. You have 2 Shock Cav, which is expensive. Desert Heavy Lancers, excellent mass, excellent charge and offensive stats, but poor survivability and lower than average morale for 840. So it's a pretty big investment, but if they can get the charge off without being shot at, they're gonna destroy things, and it's amazing to watch happen, because, you know, you've spent all that money and now it's coming. It's rewarding you for paying it, but if they even get looked at by an archer, they're going to suffer. The reason I'm going to say this about the Thessalian is because it's cheap and faster. This is slower and more expensive, but it's still going to do pretty well. It's fairly cost effective. Hellenic Desert Cataphracts, the complete opposite, coming out at a whopping 1,450. They're basically the Hellenic Cataphracts with a tiny bit more charge bonus. They're overpriced, extremely slow, but decimate anything on the charge. With Trample, their charge bonus is 117. It's absolutely amazing just to watch anything in front of them just die. Excellent stats across the board, though lower melee defense and armor than I'd expect. Even for a Shock Cav, you can bring it. Once again, high risk, high reward. The moment you see these guys coming, they're like a Royal Cataphract. You see them coming, and they get into your archers, it's GG, because your archers are not living. And neither is anything they come into contact with. Though the 90 armor being on the lower end means that javelins can still do a number, as they don't have a shield, so they've got no chance of blocking it. But that is Nabataea, one of my favourite factions. Your core units really are the Armored Deserts, Nabataean Heavies, Nabataean Noble Cav, Nabataean Swords, and never bring the Noble Swordsman. Pikes aren't that worth it, and don't bring any other spear except Levy Spearmen, Armored Deserts, and the rest you can mix and match. Some cavalry don't. If it's medium mass cav, don't get it. If it's camels, take the camel spearmen. That's it. But yeah, that's Nabataea. Bye bye for now.